I never, in the wildest corners of my mind, envisioned myself as the guy who ends up penning one of these stories. You know the kind. The ones you randomly find yourself doom scrolling through on your phone at 2 a.m., half awake and whispering, "No way. How does anyone even breathe after going through something like that?" I always believed heartbreak was just metaphorical melodrama, poetic exaggeration at best, until Jenna. Until she came in like wildfire and exited like an avalanche, leaving behind a wrecked version of me that never fully found its center again. We met in a way that feels like a fading legend, organically, not through dating apps or swipe fatigue. Just two unsuspecting strangers in a modest little art gallery, nestled in a side alley on a chilly, restless November evening. I was reluctantly dragged out by an old college buddy who insisted that rejoining the world might do me some good. Jenna, meanwhile, arrived with her colleagues, cloaked in this effortlessly cool leather jacket and wearing this smirking red lipstick that whispered secrets it had no business keeping. She giggled at something ridiculous I said, a dumb joke about how a painting's shadows resembled coffee stains. And before I realized it, she had me talking, unraveling, laughing, and for the first time in what felt like forever, being seen. We ended up grabbing coffee that same night. One cup turned into three, and we sat until 2 a.m. in the back booth of a sleepy diner, exchanging stories of scraped knees and childhood fears over pancakes. I remember wondering how rare it was, this kind of instant connection, the sort that doesn't creep in but collides. She told me I had safe energy, that I made her feel grounded, like the world could hush when I was around. And hearing that, it meant everything. Because suddenly, someone saw through the fog and found me in it. Exactly 1 week later, we were inseparable. Our whirlwind romance moved fast, but never felt rushed. I'd text her good morning before her daily meetings. She'd drop by my office with my favorite sandwiches, saying I worked too hard. She nicknamed me Puppy in the cutest way, claiming I followed her around with these wide, adoring eyes. I didn't even protest the nickname. It made her laugh. That was enough. A year down the line, we took the leap, moved in together. I admit I nudged us there, but she leaned in too. She seemed genuinely happy. We painted walls, adopted a cat, whiskey for the color of his amber eyes, and built what I truly thought was the foundation of a beautiful, lasting life. But somewhere in the stillness of that settled life, the foundation began to crack. Not all at once, like a shattered glass. No, more like a slow, insidious drip in a pipe behind the wall. The kind you don't hear until the floor is ruined. She grew distant. Her habits changed. Suddenly, her phone was always face down. Passwords multiplied. "It's just work, babe," became the answer to every midnight buzz. Her laughter, once generous, dried up. Puppy faded into nothingness. I blamed the stress, her new PR job, the long hours. I told myself she was just overwhelmed. Because the alternative, the truth, that was unbearable. So I began to tiptoe. Tried not to annoy her. If I cooked, she said she'd already eaten. If I asked how her day was, I'd get an eye roll. If I reached for her hand, she recoiled, as if I were someone unfamiliar. There's one night I'll never forget. I cooked her favorite, spaghetti bolognese, lit candles, even queued up a playlist of songs from our first month together. She walked in late, glanced at the scene, and scoffed. "What is this, prom night?" That's when something inside me cracked. Not fully shattered, not yet, but fractured. Still, I stayed. because I loved her, or the memory of who she was. I clung to this desperate belief that if I just loved her better, deeper, harder, she'd return. I didn't see that she had already left. Her body remained, her toothbrush beside mine, her perfume still lingering in the hallway. But her soul, it had departed long ago. And then came the night that killed the man I used to be. It was our 3rd anniversary. She said she'd be working late. I smiled, pretending to understand, but secretly, I had a plan. I took a day off, feigned a cold, spent hours cooking lasagna from scratch, her favorite. I even printed and framed a sketch I'd done of her months ago, one she'd once said made her feel beautiful. Candles were lit, fairy lights twinkled, our dining table transformed. I wore the shirt she liked best on me. I waited. At 8:50 p.m., I heard the jingle of her keys. My heart pounded. I clutched a single red rose, praying this would reignite something. She stepped inside, dressed like she'd just come from a rooftop party, not a boardroom. She reeked of a man's cologne, not mine. Her eyes locked onto mine, frozen. "Happy anniversary," I whispered, hope trembling on my lips. She blinked, scanned the room, scanned me. Then, with utter disdain, she sneered, "God, you're like one of those pathetic, clingy puppy things. It's actually gross." I couldn't speak. My throat tightened. My heart thundered in disbelief. She shoved past me, grabbed a bottle of wine, and disappeared into the bedroom. No gratitude, no acknowledgement, just cruelty, weaponized with indifference. That night, I stayed on the cold floor, lasagna untouched, the framed sketch shattered, and I cried, and I hate crying. But that night, I sobbed until my chest ached and my breath came ragged. The next morning, I couldn't pretend anymore. I started watching, really watching. She had no idea. She still thought I was that same obedient little puppy, tail wagging. But I was something else now. Quiet, deliberate, sharpened by pain. When she left her phone unlocked, I read everything. I connected dots. Work late meant Mason. The girls meant lies. I cataloged the deception like evidence at a crime scene. It started with flirtatious texts, then turned explicit. Then there were photos. And worst of all, her words about me. That I was pathetic. That I was too sweet, too clingy, too boring. That I'd never leave. That I was the stupid mutt who waited at the door even after being kicked. And I broke. But not out of rage. Out of clarity. I didn't confront her. I documented, screenshotted every message, photographed her with Mason outside his office, compiled it all. Then I plotted. I visited a lawyer, quietly untangled our finances, moved out essentials while she was away, transferred the lease into her name, changed the locks, all of it in secret, calculated, calm. On her birthday, the one day she lived for, I waited for her to leave for a supposed co-worker brunch. I left a folder on the kitchen table. Inside, every screenshot, every photo, the transfer papers, and a letter from my lawyer. On top was a note. "You once called me a clingy puppy, but you forgot. Puppies don't forget cruelty. They remember everything." And then I vanished, blocked her, gone. Like a ghost she didn't even realize she'd summoned. She exploded hours later. Calls, texts, emails. Desperation laced every message. She wept, screamed, blamed Mason, begged, promised, lied some more. She even showed up at my best friend's place, mascara running down rain-slicked cheeks, the image of a woman unraveling. But this wasn't a romance movie. No emotional montage. No music swelling at the climax. No scripted redemption arc. I watched her from upstairs. I never opened the door. I let her press that doorbell a dozen times. I let her sob into the storm. I let her taste the hollow she carved into my soul. Her world crumbled, her job obliterated within a month. HR or karma got hold of the texts. Mason dumped her instantly. Her glow faded. Her name turned into a whisper, a warning. And the girl who mocked a clingy puppy ended up abandoned. As for me, I healed. Not overnight, not cleanly, but surely. Therapy stitched me back together. Friends anchored me. Time, the cruelest and kindest thing, worked its magic. I picked up my sketchbook again, took a solo trip through snow-covered peaks, adopted a rescue pup, Echo, gentle, steady, loyal. I've tried dating again, sure, but more importantly, I fell in love with me. Something she never truly did. Something I had forgotten how to. This story isn't revenge. It's not validation. It's a lighthouse. For anyone sitting alone tonight, a cold plate of lasagna in front of them, clutching a single rose, wondering what they did wrong. Let me be clear. It's not your kindness, not your loyalty, not your love. Some people don't know how to accept love without first setting fire to it. Let them burn in their own silence. Let them cry behind the doors they closed. And when they knock, don't answer. Because you deserve someone who cherishes your heart, not someone who scoffs at its sincerity. You deserve someone who sees the puppy and calls it home. The end.